Hello, and welcome back to Viking Initiative for Building Excellence. In today's video, which is lesson 3 of the SAT course, we'll be going over writing. The objectives for today are to learn the types of writing questions on the SAT and to practice applying language rules to solve these problems. This is the second of our two videos about SAT English, and since we covered reading in the last video, we'll be focusing on writing in this video. Question types. The main concepts and question types that you'll encounter on the SAT writing questions are shown below. So these include topic development, organization, unity, and cohesion, precision in word choice, consistency in style and tone, sentence structure and formation, punctuation and usage, and many grammatical rules like commas, apostrophes, colons, semicolons, dashes, periods, question marks, and exclamation marks. Study method. So, when studying for SAT writing, what should you do? Again, the recommendation is to do a practice test first, and this is what you should get from it. A is what you can do intuitively, whether it be grammar, tone, structure, flow, or anything else. B is what you can do consistently, but with some thought. So, this doesn't come as naturally as those concepts in A. C is what you get wrong sometimes. So this isn't something that you really struggle with, but say you take a few practice tests and occasionally you would make one or two mistakes in a certain topic. That would be part C. And D is what you get wrong consistently. So if most of the time your mistakes fall in certain sections, then those would count as D. Within these four, D and C are your top priorities. Find review materials for the question types in these categories. And unlike for reading, when doing writing questions, I recommend that you put time pressure. Ideally, you want to do these questions quickly to save time for your longer reading passages. Don't waste time by practicing A because you know that well already. And when you see yourself improving topics considered D and C, start practicing under time conditions and add B to this practice as well. So practice everything a lot apart from A because that is what you already know very well. So let's start with a very simple but very important concept, pronouns. The SAT loves catching students off guard with the choice in pronouns. The most important tip to know is to notice whether the reference of the pronoun is singular or plural. If it is referring to something singular, the pronoun must also be singular. If it's referring to something that's plural, the pronoun must also be plural. The two must match. Also, given the choice between a noun and a pronoun to refer to something mentioned in the text, always choose to use the noun for clarity. This is very commonly tested. If they give you a choice, for example, to use either a person's name or just to use him, always choose the name because that clearly indicates what it is referring to, while the pronoun may not be that clear, and the pronoun does not give an exact idea of what it's referring to. So in these cases, always choose the noun. Going on to conjunctions versus adverbs. It's very important to know the meaning of both of these and to differentiate between the two. So a conjunction is a word or a phrase that's used to connect causes. Examples include and, but, and so. Adverbs are words or phrases that modify. When used to connect two independent clauses, adverbs must be preceded by a semicolon and followed by a comma. This must always be the case. Examples of adverbs include however, therefore, thus, and hence. And they have differences in usage, as we will show in the next slide. So this is an example of the difference in usage between a conjunction and an adverb. So if you see the top, but is a conjunction, and the sentence, he is unorganized, but he is fully qualified for the project. This is the correct usage for but. If you want to use however instead of but, then it's different. You can have many ways of saying it. You can either break it down into two sentences, he is unorganized, full stop. However, comma, he is fully qualified for the project. Or you can use a semicolon instead of the full stop. And like mentioned on the previous page, you need to use a semicolon before however, which is the adverb, but a comma after it. You can also move the position of however. You could put it after he is, as it is a modifying word. You can also put it at the end of the sentence because it is a modifying verb and it can be placed wherever as long as it modifies. However, it's very important to note that the last example is an incorrect usage of however. You cannot say he is unorganized, comma, however he is fully qualified for the project. That is how you use a conjunction, but not how you use an adverb. You have to have a comma after however, and you have to have a break, either a full stop or a semicolon before however. Key punctuation uses. These are some of the common punctuation that you will find in texts on the SAT, and you need to know what each of them do and how to use each of them. For comma, this is often used for insertion, to connect two independent clauses with a conjunction, or to separate elements in a list. A dash is also used for insertion, but it can also be used for explanation, to attach another phrase. A colon is most often used for a list or explanation, in which the structure goes, you'll have an independent clause, then a colon, and then you'll have a word, a phrase, or another independent clause. A semicolon is normally the most difficult punctuation to master, but essentially it just connects two independent clauses without a conjunction. And it can also be used to separate elements in a complex list. So if you have a list that already has commas within each element, then you would use semicolons to show that that is separating each element from each other. Word choice. When a question asks for the best choice of word in a blank, remember to always read the surrounding sentences in the text. They will contain synonymous words or phrases to the target word or phrase. If you don't understand the word's meaning, try to infer it through prefixes or suffixes or the root word. More often than not, you will able to find the at least the rough meaning of the word through these clues. Let's move on to practice. Again, I'll be using both examples from the new digital SAT and the old paper SAT because they test the same concepts. Practice question 1. Take a minute or two and try to do this question. Pause the video, and when you're ready, resume. Okay, so the hint says to look for synonyms. This is a synonym question. It's asking you what is the best choice of word. Now, option C is correct. C is melodic. This is correct because it keeps the pleasant musical quality, which is synonymous with melodic, and none of the other options are supported by the text. So you need to find a phrase or a word in the text that you have right now that is synonymous with one of the word options, because then you know that is definitely the right option. And as you can see, apart from melodic, none of the other meanings of the words are reflected in the text. Now, let's move on to practice question 2. This is a punctuation question, so take another minute or two, and when you're ready, resume the video. So, the answer to this question is C. Let's go through each of the options and see why they're right or wrong. For option A, entomologist Heather Grab with a colon. This is wrong because a colon is used to start off a list, but as you can see, nothing is being listed after Grab. D is also incorrect in the same vein. Entomologist Heather Grab with a comma, but nothing is being listed after it, so there's no need for the comma to be there. B may look like a correct answer, but her name isn't additional information. If you have a comma both before and after her name, it suggests that it's an insertion, but it's clearly not the case, because entomologist Heather Grab means Heather Grab with the occupation of entomologist. Her name, again, is not an insertion, it's all part of the same phrase. So you do not need a comma both before and after. The most straightforward option and the correct one is C, with no punctuation. Let's put C in and check out how it sounds. So, entomologist Heather Grab found that when wild growth near an orchard was cleared, the number of different bee species visiting that orchard decreased. That sounds right, and it's the correct option. That brings us to the end of the video. Visit vikinginitiative.com for more AP, IB, and standardized testing resources. If you have any questions, join the SAT group chat and ask our tutors. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.